Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, building experiences that connect, remove friction, and deliver insights. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Kyle McDowell. Kyle is widely known for his inspiring approaches to transforming bosses into leaders and reshaping corporate cultures. Learn how nearly 3 decades of experience leading tens of thousands of employees at some of the biggest companies in the United States can impact your business. His new book, Begin with We, 10 Principles for Building and Sustaining a Culture of Excellence, was published in September of 2022. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Kyle McDowell.
Hey, Ed, great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Well, first off, Kyle, why do you do what you do?
You know, that's an interesting question. And this I would call the second half or the second chapter of my career, and it is a different approach than what I've taken the first 30 years. And I can't really talk about one without talking about the other, but suffice to say that the first chapter included some really, really great times in corporate America. But towards the end of that run, I felt myself a little disenfranchised and even a little checked out at times. And that's what led me to chapter 2. And why I do what I do now is to inspire people to be great leaders, to create and empower great leaders behind them, and then also build what I call cultures of excellence inside of their organizations.
And let's talk a little bit about your book. You said before we started recording that it's become a Wall Street Journal bestseller, so congratulations on that. The book is entitled, again, Begin with We, 10 Principles for Building and Sustaining a Culture of Excellence. Right. So what's your book about?
Yeah, so when I made the decision that I wanted to lead a little bit differently in corporate America, I came up with 10 principles. And the principles each, with no planning, Ed, it was an absolute accident, begin with the word we. And they start very, very simple at we do the right thing always, and they go through a series of kind of build upon one another principles. And those principles are what fueled the organization in terms of a cultural transformation that I was a part of at the time. And when I stepped away from corporate America in late 2020, I had an opportunity to go back into a similar role, big organization leading tens of thousands of teammates. And that was very appealing to me. But the second option was to take these principles and evangelize them across all of corporate America and try to have a bigger impact across multiple companies and organizations. So I chose the second path, and that involved writing the book. So, like I said, I left in late 2020. Took 18 months to write the book. It's out for the world to ingest now. So I'm really excited to promote it.
And what do you think are some of the things that corporate America gets wrong with leadership? What do they not do correctly that they really should be doing a better job with?
Well, I mean, I think that what's been lost is, at one point in time, it was a widely accepted thing or notion to say that the company's most valuable asset is its employee. And I feel like a lot of companies may say that today, but I think over time, the emphasis and the focus on the employee has waned. And as a result, the leaders, or what I would call bosses in those organizations, tend to treat the teammates and the folks that report to them with a little less respect, right? So that creates apathy, that creates disengaged employees, and then the cycle kicks off. So I think if you ask me just one characteristic that I think we would like to address in corporate America, that is the apathetic kind of malaise that is taken on across corporate America because of dysfunctional leaders and toxic environments.
And what do you think are some of the strengths right now of leadership, especially in the United States?
Well, I think the strengths come from my optimism in people in general. Every single one of us wants to have an impact. Every single one of us joins the workforce with an optimism and eagerness to have an impact. We want to do good things. I think there are a few exceptions, obviously, to that rule, but by and large, all of us operate under those kind of tenets. So I have optimism that with those tenets still being in place, regardless of how toxic any environment might be, at the core, we're all human beings that want to have a great existence on this planet, and that doesn't stop outside of the workplace.
So I just want to ask you something about something that's been rolling around in my mind a while on this, and that is I think that there's been a misalignment of purpose of business and understanding of result of business. I think John Mackey has a great analogy that just left his role as CEO of Whole Foods, has a great analogy. He says, profit in a business is like red blood cells in the body. He says that it is the result of what we do. It's not our purpose. No one wakes up in the morning thinking, oh, I got to produce red blood cells today. But if you don't, you die. And the same thing is true with profit in a business. It's the result, but it really shouldn't be the purpose. The purpose of or the organization needs to be something outside of itself. So expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that I believe the organization does not exist without its people. Sounds cliche, but here's what I mean by that. I've never met a person named Whole Foods. I've never met a person named IBM. They're led by people. They're led by human beings. And each of those human beings need to have as I mentioned a moment ago, we want to have an impact. We want to lead with purpose. So if each of the leaders within an organization lead with that purpose, whatever that purpose might be, I don't think it's profit. I think it's to have an impact and leave the world a better place than you found it. If we have more of those in a leadership position inside of our organization, by definition, the organization is positioned exactly the same. So I think it starts with the people in the organization, not the organization to the people.
And trying to communicate that down throughout the ranks, because I think a lot of people just are stuck with this notion that businesses are in business to make a profit, but that's not really true.
That's absolutely right, and obviously making money is part of the capitalist world that we're in. But it is too often becomes the maniacal focus of leaders. And that's when the treatment of those employees, as I mentioned earlier, the greatest asset, not the product or service that we sell, that's when we go awry.
And Kyle, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
That's easy for me. My hero is my mother. She instilled a work ethic in me that I'm very, very proud of. I would say in addition to the work ethic she passed on to me, just how to be a good human, treat people with respect, and always follow that golden rule. As cliche as that sounds, that's exactly how I'd answer that question.
And lastly, Kyle, how can somebody contact you?
Very, very simple. Kyle McDowell Inc. is the website, and all my social handles are the same, at Kyle McDowell Inc.
Outstanding. The book is Begin With We, 10 Principles for Building and Sustaining a Culture of Excellence. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. Kyle McDowell, thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Ed. Thank you again.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.